This segment, we're going to be focusing on diet, nutrition, and how it pertains to the spiritual battle. So we're going to be looking at holistic levels today and how, even though we've discussed elements, oh, hello, special appearance already. All right, you kids behave.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, have the orbs turned up? Because I had the orbs just like.
No, I haven't seen them yet. I just saw that
Like,
my little guys.
okay, all right. So your guys aren't shy. My guys are being shy now. All right, it's all happening. So yeah, we're going to be speaking about how nutrition, what we put into our bodies, is vital and plays into the spiritual battle that we're experiencing here in the flesh, from everything synergistically working from spirit to matter, in how it filters down. So people may say, well, you guys have been speaking about the end of the age and how these events that are going to be happening are going to be quite drastic. So why does this even matter? Why does nutrition and health even matter? Well, it matters because the state of our being, even upon our departure, matters because that information will be retained in our cellular memory. So it's actually vital what level and what stage we are at, even at the points of transition, for those that do transition.
And also what you have carried from the beginning of your material form is what you carry now, and those choices. And that is also contributing to what has been created in the now.
Yeah, because we do subconsciously retain in our cellular makeup memories, even from past lives and events that have happened, both to the positive and the negative. And that's why, yeah, some people, even who are carrying over trauma, might not even realize why they feel. They might even seem to have had a fairly normal upbringing, nothing, extreme happening to them, but yet they might go through, states of depression and anxiety, and they might not even realize that they're carrying over those hardships and those emotions due to past life actions. So,
and trauma that they don't recall, but the body retains it. So they may just have somatic symptoms and not have any memory, so it confuses them. They don't understand why their body has the issues or is responding, like it has PTSD and a lot of different things. So because it's all there, it's retained.
Absolutely. Just as our thoughts and deeds can transform our genetic makeup, because we do have the ability to mutate our own genes through our choices. So that's where nutrition and food does come into play. And I'm sure everyone's heard of the phrase, you are what you eat. And food is mood. Everything has a vibrational signature here. So what you synergistically align yourself with will impact you with either positively or negatively, because it all carries a charge.
Yeah.
So the last solo video I did, I touched on vegetarianism and how that is a path to evolution. And I do subscribe to that. I am a vegetarian myself. I was raised as a meat eater for a good part of my life. You can imagine raised from a European background, pretty much, there was a heavy meat load that I was conditioned to. And just like foods can be addictive and habits can be ingrained. And for me, that was just something that I just didn't consciously think about until, I had a form of renaissance happening at a particular stage in my life where I basically rebooted my system. Our body usually speaks to us and responds to us with what we input into it. And I've always found that I have felt optimal on a vegetarian diet. Are you the same, Lauda?
Well, I mean, when I was little, when I started eating human food, because I was allergic to food when I was born, took me about 4 years before I could eat it. I didn't want any meat at all. Like everything in me hated and couldn't. I would cry. Well, of course, Mediterranean people, they eat a lot of meat. It's like hugely, every kind of meat you can think of, every kind of weird whatever. I mean, cow brains, all of it. I never wanted any of it. And but having the mother I had, I wasn't even like, there was no way I was going to be able to get away without eating it. So I fought until eventually she said, well, okay, I can't force you to eat everything we eat, but you essentially have to choose 2 things. And I'll always make sure I'll make one of those at least, right? Because otherwise I would starve. And I did starve, by the way, like waiting her out, because, I thought that, if I didn't eat it she would just give in, but she didn't give in. So I chose seafood and chicken because I was trying to feel I could feel the soul. So if I chose those 2 things, it was like, in terms of me tapping into what that feels like, it felt like a smaller, like fish felt like it was part of a group soul versus that's how I felt it when I was little. Now people can argue or whatever, it's not about that. It's what I felt when I tapped in. And that's how it felt. And it felt like those 2 were the lesser of the big souls.
Well, I find it
And
interesting.
I don't know how else to explain that. I don't know, like, I don't mean to say their souls are lesser, but it's like feeling into it as a child, it felt like they were the least of the bigger damage, if you will.
Well, when we look at consciousness, there are different degrees of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from what I can tap into, an ant doesn't have the same awareness as what a cow does.
Right.
So, and what I find interesting though, is that you essentially were being rigged into and essentially programmed into meat eating when your natural inclination
not to touch
stay
it.
away from it.
Oh, I didn't want anything to do it from day one. I would cry and scream and cry. I would go hungry. And then I realized that, I was in an environment that was not nurturing, or, it wasn't like I had a mother who would understand and then be understanding in that and giving me salad and making sure I had what I needed. It wasn't about that. It was that, I'm not here to serve you. Like, so you're basically, so the fact that she even said I could choose 2 things was really like massive, because normally I don't even think she would, but I was starving myself. So,
but it still had to be meat. So,
well, it still had to, according to her, it was like one of the 2, right? Now I will accommodate that, but it's still, and that's part of the hijacking, right? Because I'm still going to make you eat that, even though you don't want to, or you're going to starve, right? But
because this is what I'm trying to figure out, because I know some people don't want to necessarily tailor, and go out of their way to tailor to a vegetarian diet. But would, for example, in your family, like, they would make salads anyway? So it's like...
Well, I mean, yeah, of course they would make salad, but it was like 4 of us eating, and there wasn't a lot of salad.
Okay.
So, and the salad wasn't those salads we make today. It, where you put everything in, it was just iceberg lettuce, some tomato.
Yeah.
And, olive oil and vinegar.
Okay. But what I'm trying to establish was, did you feel it was more like a programming
Oh, totally.
attempt, yeah,
Totally.
rather
Totally.
than a sense of like, well, laziness, you know, that no, I don't want to like have to tailor and make extra meals
Yeah.
and
Well, I feel like part of the laziness is the program as well, right? It's like to run people down so that they're just like, I'm too tired to accommodate you because I'm too busy trying to survive and I don't want to like now create like a whole new menu for one kid.
yeah. Okay.
So it's part of it, right? That's part of the programming.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, the key point to that is that you, with even with all your pre-birth memories and where the origins that you came from, where they didn't eat meat there in the
No, God,
mansions
no. Lord, no.
that you're
No,
part of.
no,
Yeah.
no. That's not happening anywhere in the real verse. Like, there is no meat eating. There is
Yeah.
no killing of another being and then eating it. There is no cannibalism.
Which is what makes it
Yeah.
one of the heavens,
That's not
essentially.
even, it's not even a thing. Like, you know, this is only a thing when you come into the inverse. Then, and the inverse is the whole verse, right? The universe, I verse. You're undoing your own verse. This is the inverse. So it's not even a thing until you're here. And then you're like, what? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing until I came in here. And it was really horrifying to me to know that. I mean, I would gurgle, scream, and cry. And of course the program will always have you witnessing something that causes you that much more trauma over it and then force you to eat it. I like my great aunt had a farm and she had a bunch of animals, goats, and I used to ride the goats and they were all my pets. Everything was my pet. I had a pet chicken. The chicken used to sleep in the bed with me. I used to like cry if it didn't. And you know, she had rabbits, and that one particular rabbit, which was my rabbit, and I named it like I named all the animals. It was that rabbit that my great aunt decided to kill in front of me when I was 5. And that was horrible. And then to see my rabbit, you know, being in a pot and like it was just really horrific. It was horrific. And so of course, and you know, they were laughing and they thought it was funny, whatever. And I was like really quite traumatized for a really long time. And then my parents ate rabbit, right? Well, they ate everything, but they ate rabbit. And so sometimes what my mom would do was lie to me, and she would tell me that she was cooking chicken when it was rabbit. So that was like they were lying to me to try and get me to eat something else. And in that way they were trying to corrupt me. But I always knew. I always knew. I could always sense it, even when like I was very little. So I would, you know, I got good at, you know, looking in the garbage and seeing like what was in there to let me know it was, but it was, yeah, I did get good at discerning because I would just feel it out. I could just, I mean, it was bad enough that I was forced to eat what I was forced to eat, let alone like them lying to me, okay, to try and get me to eat the other stuff that they were eating, which was everything under the sun. But, you know, I mean, this was not, this was not something I knew until I came in here.
Yeah, well, I can imagine, yeah, what a shock to the system that would have been. Because, yeah, you would have witnessed your auntie slaughtering animals because she did that in front of you as
Well,
well.
she did the rabbit. She didn't know I was there. I was like playing outside and she went and she grabbed my, but the thing is she was controlled to get my rabbit as a form of trauma to me.
Out of all the other ones that she
Out
could
of
have.
all of the other ones.
Yeah.
And and she knew I was playing outside, so she knew I was in like right around that area.
Mhm.
So it just so happened that I happened to be like, I went right around the corner of the, like, you know, and I just never forgot that. Like, I just never ever forgot that. And you know, what happens here in the programming is that they'll have other things happen to you to cause you that kind of trauma, especially when you're trying to not do it. Like, you know, they'll have like one of your friends and their parents will buy a goat, and you think that they have a goat friend, like a new friend goat, and then you know, you find out this is what happened to me when I was in grade school. So, and I was in grade 7. One of my friends invited me over to play, and her dad had brought a goat home, and I was like, oh, that's, you know, I never had any idea that you'd go and kill. Like, this just wasn't a thing that I would ever imagine.
Yep.
And they literally had the goat downstairs, and I was upset because they had the goat in the basement. So I went down to the basement and I was like upset. I was like, we have to take the goat outside. Like, you can't keep the goat in the basement. Why are you guys doing that? And the parents were laughing at me. And then the dad came downstairs and, like, in front of me, slit the throat of the goat and then hung it upside down. I was in so much shock because I just didn't even understand what I was witnessing. And this is in a, you know, normal community, normal house. That's not like, this wasn't farm area that I lived in.
Yeah.
So you have to ask yourself, those are pretty extreme things to witness, and they're not accidental.
No, nothing is.
So
In that sense.
and that's what I find about this place, right? Um, they have created and engineered situations to impact you and really infiltrate, whether it's through force by eating because you'll starve and you're a child and you can't fend for yourself, or they'll cause you to witness the things that you love, you know, to be killed in front of you, and other things. Like, there's other people who've experienced different things, right? All of which just should never be happening. There's no divine respect of life. Like, there's no real divine connection to things. It's like the program here just is very is trying to break the primes and the reals down to a very draconian level. It's like trying to remove everything that is divine in you and your compass. It's trying to, like, corrupt it and degrade it and bring it down to a really base level so that you're functioning on a very predatory level and a very you know, the same as them.
Well, it's a very reptilian brained
Right.
function.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. What makes this an underworld is that it is very primitive. But what I find alarming is how normalized it is.
Yep.
But you raised a good point, because what you touch on speaks to the detachment that society has in all this. I mean, and what I find interesting, how you chose chicken and seafood.
Fish.
Okay. So not clams, not oysters, nothing like that. It was just fish. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that those two food groups, in terms of consciousness, it's interesting because what I thought about is that we actually pronounce fish on a menu as fish.
Mm-hmm.
And chicken is chicken. You'll go get a chicken burger.
Right.
You'll go get a fish burger.
Right.
But you don't get a cow burger, and you don't get a pig burger.
Right. Yeah.
And it dawned on me, like, that's not an accident. It's a very deliberate thing that they've tried to create a form of detachment and a form of mind coitus, because pigs and cows are of a higher consciousness. They are very aware beings. They are highly sentient.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a reason why cows are held as more sacred in that sense, and pigs being a forbidden animal to eat, is because they do have very human-like qualities. So it is actually a form of cannibalism
Mm-hmm.
when you slaughter those beings. And that
Well,
might seem
I've
a
always
very abstract thing to hear in
no,
comparison,
it is
because
it is
for a lot of
cannibalism.
people that would seem very abstract, and they wouldn't be able to relate to it. But
I think certain animals though were created purposely from the human genome. I've always said the pig was created by the Anunnaki. Okay, the same as cow, the same as like there's a lot of things that we have here created by them that are not in the natural chain of evolution in any way, shape, or form, and they have been engineered from human DNA.
and in some ways, engineered for harvesting.
Yes.
That doesn't make it right.
No.
But what I was going to touch on is that the reason why pigs are, from certain religious perspectives and certain religious backgrounds, are forbidden. The forbidden is because they do share a lot of human DNA. And I've often said, and I've said this to my own family members, that if you enjoy eating pig, pork, then you'll have no problems cannibalizing, because there's actually not that much of a difference even in the tissue. So when I do read that the genetic structure is quite similar, then it's not surprising.
The multi-tiered purpose of engineering such a thing and having, and not just for harvesting, but really it's to undermine the primes and the reals, because if they can engineer something and basically give that as food, okay, because they're making it hard to produce food that are, you know, that are grown in the soil, because you've got engineering on a mass scale for winter and for all this stuff that just makes it impossible to grow. Then yeah, and then you say, well, hey, here's pigs, here's whatever, you know, you can eat this. It's a way of corrupting this soul and bringing it down. Like it's making,
which is a binding.
Yeah,
it's there as part of the binding through frequency,
absolutely,
via keeping the contained being in flesh,
yep,
degraded in consciousness,
right. Oh, absolutely.
In order to facilitate,
Yes,
the retaining of one in that frequency station of the underworlds, of which
yeah,
we're in.
so if they can get you, yeah, and this is the whole point, right? If they can really get you to do that, the corruption that happens, that it causes to your DNA, and it mutates your DNA, it then creates and attacks your God genes, which then creates like a cutting off of your divine ability to connect with spirit. And then you become, in time, you know, you acquire the attributes of that more so, and you do, and you become much more fleshly. So it does corrupt you, but it attacks your God genes. But this is the reason why they're doing everything they're doing, because they know it attacks your God genes. And they know it attacks your God codes. They know that the nanites and the GMOs and the chemtrails and all of that, and the microwaves and all of the dirty energy, they know that all literally attacks you at the center of your God code. And it's, you know, you're being 360 degrees attacked, not only by everything you're inhaling, eating, but then they're making you eat while they're not making you, you are allowing it. But there are a lot of people who don't know any different. And so literally the corruption that's happening on all levels is creating a very different blueprint. And it's very far removed from what you are in origin, and what what you are aspiring to in the becoming, right? That divinity is being corrupted, and it's causing your own fall, if you will, really, if you want to put it that way. And the program's huge here. I mean, I come from a culture that lives mostly on pigs.
Yeah, in Europe.
In Europe.
I think that is the most popular animal.
And in fact, you can barely get chicken. But you can get pig everywhere. And when you go visit, you're going to see pieces of the pig in the store, in the bar windows, in the restaurant. Just the entire legs, right? Jamon. And that's everywhere. Like, so if you're not traumatized enough, right, then you're gonna be witnessing pieces of body parts, and that's normal. Now, the last time I went, I was really disappointed because I found that the people's temperament was very aggressive and savage, if you will.
You read my mind, because I was just about to bring that up. Like, what were the people like in those regions? What behaviors did you witness? And because I was going to touch on when I spent some time in Europe for the first time. And when we speak about, reptilian brain, where it's, that kind of, aggressiveness, highly reactive.
Yes.
Personalities.
Selfish, self-serving.
Yes, very, very looking out for oneself. And very cliquey. I just
dangerous, really. Like,
you can't really feel comfortable. You don't feel comfortable.
No, you're on hyper alert because you feel like at any given moment you could possibly be having to protect yourself against, assailants.
Well, that's what's that is what's concerning. And I don't want to get off track, so I won't bring up the whole survival of the fittest mentality, but it does tie into how I opened up this video with the whole notion of the spiritual battlefield that we are part of, because we're talking about a war on consciousness. We are the spiritual beings having a human experience here. Most of us have completely forgotten our origin points, because some people have just been cycled through these underworlds for so long that it's just it's very ingrained in them, the way that this system works in its primitive carnal ways, which are normalized. But in speaking about the war, because there has been an awakening that's come about in terms of people going through an evolutionary process to where their craving for meat has dissipated in many ways. But what's happening now is the negatives here are now trying to counter that by contaminating the meatless products. So you've got people that have good intentions, who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to be ethical, who are deeply empathic, or becoming more empathic and compassionate to the wholesale slaughter and suffering and abominations in how so many animals are being treated. But they're still prey to the mechanisms of
Mhm.
the degradation policies.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm a label reader when I go into the supermarkets,
Mhm.
and I'm surprised that I don't see more people reading labels,
Mhm.
considering how much crap goes in food these
Mhm.
days. But I've noticed with a lot of the vegetarian meats, you call them
Yeah.
faux meats,
Mhm.
like I'm alarmed at what's going in them.
Yeah.
And
Well, what are you seeing that's going in them? Because I do want to talk about that because I know Bill Gates did the whole Beyond Meat thing. And there's this wave of like creating vegan meats that are based on looking like they're real meat with blood, which is disgusting and utterly repulsive. Um, and of course, he was found like there's been a lot of issues with what they're putting in that and putting in other similar things, right? So, what have you found?
okay, I have heard about what you're
Hmm.
stating, but I haven't researched it at length, so I can't really comment on that.
Hmm.
I can only comment on what
It
you
looks
know
like
I'm
real meat.
I'm seeing in the real. Hey, say it again.
So,
It's
like these vegan patties, they're
yeah.
vegan, okay? But if you look at them, you can't tell the difference between a vegan patty and like raw meat.
Okay, so but it's lab meat, right?
It's all, yeah, it's faux meat. It's not real meat,
Yeah.
but it looks totally the same.
Okay. I would never be
And
inclined to that.
and
Just
including they have red stuff coming out of it to make
okay.
it
So
look like
it's
blood.
yeah.
Um,
I look, I don't
don't understand it.
understand. Yeah, for me, I just find that if you can be negatively geared and negatively programmed, then you can be positively geared and
Mhm.
positively programmed. And it's up to us if we are willing to wean off what we have been negatively geared to,
Mhm.
then your body will transform and respond to that. But of course, in having that mindset to evolve and better yourself,
Mhm.
you still have to keep on top and do your research of all the pitfalls and the traps, like what I'm saying, with what I'm seeing in the supermarkets.
Mhm.
Uh, for example, you're not even having transparent labeling now with
Mhm.
you've got these oils like canola oil. I mean, I've done research on canola oil, and I'm quite alarmed at what I'm learning. Uh,
Yeah.
which and that was basically engineered from rapeseed oil. So it's just
Mhm.
a different way of processing rapeseed oil. And I didn't realize until recently that rapeseed oil was actually an industrial oil.
Do you mean
So it's
grapeseed oil?
rapeseed oil,
Oh,
not
rapeseed oil.
grapeseed oil,
Oh, okay.
rapeseed oil.
Okay.
So that was actually an oil that was used in industry. I thought they were two completely different oils, rapeseed oil and canola oil. But canola oil is basically derived from rapeseed oil, but it goes through a chemical processing.
Mhm.
And I will provide some links
Mhm.
uh, for the things that I've learned. But canola, and the reason I bring this up is canola oil is basically in so many foods right now. But from a health perspective, it's not something that I'm inclined to want to consume. And the same goes with genetically modified products,
Mhm.
which, from what I can only go by my own experiential knowledge, in the sense we're all scientists because our body communicates with us
Mhm.
when we put either something that is beneficial to it or
Mhm.
negative
Yeah.
to us. So it's just a matter of us picking up the cues and then either ignoring what our body is saying to us
Mhm.
or trying different methods, to feeling optimal.
Yeah.
And I know how these foods made me feel.
Yeah.
I remember when you fed me GMO tofu
Yeah.
and you didn't know it was GMO.
No, I
And
know.
oh my God, the effects were disastrous on my stomach.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, what the heck did you feed me? Like it was a nightmare. And I'm not going to go into any explicit details here. People could be eating now. But like it
Yeah.
just goes to show like my body
And I didn't even
body told
know.
me.
I didn't know it was a
Yeah.
GMO soy.
a lot of bloating. Then there was weight gains. I mean, you were feeding me that stuff for a while before I like kind of clued in. Like, yeah, I just thought it was my system trying to like adjust. Like, okay, it's foreign. I've never eaten this stuff. But no, we learned down the track it was GMO soy.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah. Well, I think canola oil, I know it is super cheap. It's also GMO, right? It's pure GMO. And it is altering your DNA. It's genetically modifying you.
You are what you eat.
So they're putting it in everything that they can. I mean, they're putting. It's insane to me. But if nobody complains about it, if nobody says, you know what, I want olive oil in there. I don't like. Why am I buying whatever? And this garbage is in there that is synthetic, a GMO. I don't even know. They call it an oil. It's a far stretch, but if nobody says, hey, no, then it's a yes.
Well, you know what I'm noticing now with a lot of labeling?
Mm-hmm.
They're actually becoming more stealth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just labeling whatever oil is in there, vegetable oil.
Right. Nice.
And they're actually doing this on a lot of these vegetarian foods because that's just their sneaky little way of probably slipping in canola oil.
Mm-hmm.
And they know there's a lot of people who are health conscious and are woken up. But if I see a company labeling vegetable oil and being very vague, then I'm boycotting that company. And this is the thing, is that what we support through our purchasing power, we are essentially endorsing. So if thousands or millions of people stop buying these products, then companies would be then
forced
going back to the drawing board, and then they would increase the quality. But I'm just not seeing a lot of people.
Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like, you know how at Costco they have those people that stand there and they give you like little samples?
Yeah.
Right? They'll just give you sample. And so when you actually say, oh, what's in there? Like, but almost nobody says, well, what's in there? And one of the days I was there, I said, well, what's in there? And she said, oh, and she started reading. First thing was canola oil, right? There's a whole bunch of people around me, and I just said canola oil. And I said, why would I want to buy anything with that garbage? That is like the worst thing to put in my body in terms of an oil. And everyone's looking at me like, what? What? It is? It is? Is that really true? Is that like canola oil is bad? I'm like, wow. So don't even know.
For all the people that have internet access, I can't fathom the amount of like ignorance out there. It alarms me. And yeah, look, there's people who I've acquainted myself with, and so they go on these health kicks, and then there's certain companies, they have like little satchels, for people who want calorie controlled diets. And I was reading the contents of these satchels marketed as like, oh, this is going to like help you lose weight and get you slim. But from a nutritional standpoint, it's like this crap is going to this is going to harm you. And
totally.
So yeah,
but I don't want to judge though. I just want to say this, okay? Because I also know that, there's a lot of people who have health issues, and in their experience, when they've tried to become a vegan, they become very sick, right? So I'm not going to judge. This is a purely educational video. And I truly believe that when it's time, the spirit will prepare your body to change. So where there's a will, like, yes, you may have that incapacity to do that. So where there's a will though, and a desire, the spirit will find a way for you in time so that you don't necessarily have to put yourself in peril, because there's a lot of people in agony, but they're not well. So, in their experience, they feel they need the red meat or the iron in the red, whatever, right? Like I say, I'm not here to judge, but I do know that the spirit can prepare a body when it truly desires the change, but maybe is too weak to do so. So there's always.
Wow. Well, I feel that the will has to be there in
Exactly.
order for spirit to then enact, because this whole realm, it works on our willful choices, and then
Yep.
spirit interacting with that. And there's that saying, the God helps those who help themselves. And in many
Exactly.
ways that is true, is that if you want to change, you want to better yourself, you want to evolve, then you will have assistance. Absolutely. But what I'm saying with what I was bringing up with the packets, I wasn't trying to judge in that sense. I'm just coming from the perspective that we have so much information at our fingertips, like almost whatever you want to punch into Google, you can get some information on. And why I bring that up is because what we put into our bodies is so vital,
right?
Because like you say, it does affect our mood, our genes, our state of being, and where even to the point where if you keep filling your body up with degraded foods, that actually can make you less receptive to spiritual communication.
Oh, for sure.
Like it creates energetic blocks.
Yeah. It attacks like I say, your God genes, your God codes. It's the genes in you that are enabling your material body to connect to the divine elements,
and for it to be able to filter through.
Yes. So that's what it attacks, right? This is the design. This is what all this engineering garbage is. And and the other thing is they and I do want to say they've corrupted the topsoil everywhere, saturated it. It's lacking nutrients. Okay, so this is what I'm saying by it isn't the same as 100 years ago when you would just have so much nutrition coming out of whatever you were growing, so that you didn't need to supplement. You need to supplement if you're going to do this. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to eat, just like the lettuce that comes out of my garden and a tomato. You do need to be mindful, and you need to research what your body requires in terms of amino acids, vitamins, and the proper balanced nutrition. So whatever's lacking, right? Minerals, you're not.
Well, okay. I've gone on a mini health kick of late. I'm trying to bring in a greater balance of fruit and vegetables into my diet, so where I feel I don't need any supplements. I've never really been a big partaker of them personally on my own journey. What I've been learning about, though, given what you're talking about, how much contamination there is, whether it's pesticides, in the soil, or through spraying,
and chemtrails.
I've been doing research in terms of which fruits and vegetables are more heavily contaminated and which are the least contaminated. So I've gotten into juicing lately, and the effects, and this is just through fruit juicing. And I'll tell anyone, if you want to radically transform your health overnight, the best thing you can do for yourself, other than drinking clean, non-fluoridated water from springs, other than that, I would say the best thing you can do for your health is buy yourself a decent blender and start eating raw fruits and vegetables. I haven't quite graduated, because I'm still early in my walk in that. So I haven't quite graduated to green smoothies as yet. But what I'm doing is I'm starting to blend in the lowest pesticide fruits,
which are
combined with nuts, so that you get like, so that it offsets the sugar
Mhm.
and it
So,
becomes more filling.
like, what are the vegetable or the fruits that you're talking about that are low? Like, people want to know that information.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, I wasn't really going to go as in depth into it because I was debating whether to do like a dedicated video and actually,
Well, just give
share
people
even
a couple fruits at least.
Sure. Well, this stuff is easily researched too. Because you've heard of the dirty dozen and
Mhm.
whatnot, the highest pesticide fruits. The ones I'm blending with are pineapple,
Mhm.
kiwi fruit,
Mhm.
or Chinese gooseberry, it's also called, bananas,
Mhm.
and avocado.
Mhm. So basically thick-skinned things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So where the pesticides here can't really
Right.
penetrate as deeply.
Right.
And that's why there's a lot. I was researching recipes and whatnot, but I found a lot of them like I just wanted to stick to the ones that are lowest pesticides, easily available, cost effective,
Yeah.
very nutritious. And they always say that always include like bananas if you're going to make fruit smoothies because it just improves the texture so much more. And again, all these are beneficial and they're good sugars. These are because some people might argue and they might say, okay, well, look, this sugar isn't good for you, but it's all about how the body metabolizes fats and sugars. And this is where, doing the homework really helps because a lot of people get put off, for example, even eating nuts because they say, oh, it's very fattening. Even avocado's got a lot of fats, but your body is going to metabolize those fats and it's going to actually get all the benefits in it. We need fats. In fact, the body needs fats.
So what nuts are you using mostly?
Cashews.
I think I OD'd on cashews once.
Yeah. I love the cashews.
And then after that, I was like, oh, God, I can't do any more cashews.
Yeah, you're still done.
I'm still done.
Well, maybe you can rebuild that relationship again. But yeah, so I buy unsalted, and I also use an almond butter. So I put that in. So basically, between the avocado, the cashews, and the almonds, it actually offsets the sugars from the banana, the kiwi fruit, and yeah, because I find that it's a good balance, and I put other stuff in there like turmeric powders. I'm just going to give people this recipe, and I find it actually will give you a much better boost than a cup of coffee would. And I know there's been a lot of studies done on coffee and the benefits of caffeine, but sometimes I wonder who's funding these studies because as much as I can appreciate the taste of coffee, I do not see it as a health food.
I don't think it's a health food. It's good for enemas.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't know. And not willing to go there either. But yeah, so again, in that sense, we can all be scientists. We can learn to trust our own bodies. And I know what makes me feel optimal. And I don't know about you, but when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like having a big meal. You know how, like, again,
No,
how they say, oh, breakfast should be the largest meal of the day.
I don't even know how that's possible. Like, how in the world is that? Like, I don't understand. I don't want to eat anything when I wake up. Nothing. I don't want any food touching my body at all.
Yeah. Look, I've just found that, yeah, in the short time that I've, gotten into the habit of making these smoothies, like my energy levels have picked up, lost weight, though that wasn't my intention. My intention was just to feel better and to increase my energy. So yeah, I've adopted that before, doing a workout. Yeah. So if we're going to talk about like our own intuitive know-how, I'll just speak from that. We're not doctors, we're not naturopaths, so we'll put that little disclaimer in there for this video. Should have probably done that at the start.
So what juicer did you get? People might want to know.
It cost about $250. All right,
Is it the one the Aussie made? That
I don't know where it's made. You know, I don't go that deep. I just had a budget and it seemed decent for what it is.
Yeah.
If I take it to the next level, I'll
Is it
probably
big?
upgrade.
Is it big?
It's a decent size, yeah. It's certainly enough for about 3 or 4 people.
No,
yeah.
I mean, like what happens with juicers is oftentimes people don't want to buy it because they're so big. You got to put them on your
really?
counter, right? Like it's because you've got like the area where all the fiber comes out, right? And
Oh,
then you've
okay.
got
All right. No, I haven't bought it. Okay. Now, me personally, I'm not, look, horses for courses. I wouldn't buy a juicer. I just want to buy a blender because I actually want to benefit from the fiber.
Okay. But you said juicer
Because,
before.
well, my sibling bought one and I never used it for because I just, to me, it was too finicky and whatever. I couldn't be bothered with all the cleanup.
Okay, so for everybody, a bullet, a nice little like, you know, just
NutriBullet or
something,
something.
a NutriBullet is, I have one.
Yeah.
And I use it every day. It's great. It's wonderful. It's small, you know.
Yeah, even though it's compact, it's powerful.
Oh, it's so powerful.
You sound like an infomercial.
I'm in love with it. I love it. Actually, I'm going to go and get my melon, my cantaloupe. I just did a cantaloupe that I have in the fridge right now, waiting for me. So,
well, we're going to get NutriBullet now to sponsor this video.
Now I'm just going to go get that. So we're going to take a 30-second break and we'll be right back.
Okay, done.
So that's my lovely cantaloupe.
There you go.
So as we were saying, there is a difference between juicing and having a blender. And I like both personally. I think juices are fantastic.
What do you juice?
Celery, cucumber. You can juice anything really. I mean, carrots. Like I love both, but if I use a blender, I know it's going to be heavier.
Yeah.
So, which is
good. That's the thing. I like the idea of meal replacements and getting the fiber. And I mean, you would be surprised from if we're going to look at like some of the biggest killers in terms of ill health, colon cancer is right up there with heart disease. And what contributes to colon cancer is actually constipation. And there's a lot of people who are constipated out there. And again, that is normal to them. They don't realize that we're meant to be going at least once a day, having a bowel movement. In fact, more than once. That's actually what's normal. But people, you know, who aren't like, for them, it would be like every 3 days, every 2, like, and that's not good. Like, and usually I find that these are the people who are heavy meat eaters, particularly those who eat red meat. And a lot of people don't realize that, it can take like from what I've read, 3 days for red meat to digest. Chicken would be 1 day. But if you are eating these foods constantly, well, not only does your body have to exert a lot of energy to digest the food, which is why so many people, after they eat these meals, they find themselves, they're actually tired.
Yes.
Especially where you're eating red meat.
Yeah.
Because your body has to work really, really hard to break it down. But if you just keep overloading your system, then it can take its toll. And usually when that accumulates over years of those habits, then this is where, you probably would need an enema because you would be very backed up. When we're speaking about our own journeys, and what I found interesting about my own path towards vegetarianism is that I was naturally inclined to give up pork and beef. They were the first two. And I gave them up no problem. Didn't miss it at all.
Well, I mean,
it's very interesting.
Culturally, wouldn't you guys eat lamb as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I was never really partial to pork
No.
and lamb.
Mm-mm.
But again, it's just that. Um, I mean, my family owned a takeaway business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, like like many, Greeks. It's kind of cliche. Had the Greek parents that bought the fish and chip shop.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I got very addicted
Mm-hmm.
to bad foods, unhealthy foods.
Fast
Um,
foods.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
fried, battered.
Yeah.
But look, when you're young,
Mm-hmm.
you don't put the weight on.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it probably would have been even better if I got fat from it, because then at least you can look in the mirror and say, okay, I don't want to look like this. But it's actually even more dangerous that those people who partake in unhealthy eating,
Yeah.
but it doesn't reflect on the outer,
Right.
well, other than probably giving you bad skin.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
put it this way, I didn't know what a glass of water was until I was probably 19, 20.
Wow. So you
The
didn't.
idea of drinking a glass of water was foreign to me. That's how, like, rigged into the
Oh
negative
my God.
programming through just
So you
I was
actually never had like, oh, I'm gonna have a nice big gorgeous glass of cold water.
my mind was so warped,
Mm-hmm.
right, in terms of being completely ignorant of
Mm-hmm.
health, that I would have those junk juices. Those juices which are like 25% orange juice and the rest is like sugar water. And I would be thinking I'm healthy
Mm-hmm.
because I'm having that.
Those aren't real juices, though, are they?
No, they're like reconstituted, and then it's like the rest is
And
sugar.
then
Like
sugar.
it's
Yeah.
crap,
It's kind
basically.
of like Kool-Aid, but it has like a little bit of. So they just put a little bit in so they could call it juice and not, you know,
More or less. I mean,
sugar
it's
drink.
mainly sugar. It's
Mm-hmm.
mainly sugar
Mm-hmm.
and water.
So you just never had a glass of water.
No, that was
Wow.
foreign to me. And it actually took until I was 25 before what I felt was a spiritual intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And when I undertook I'll call it an extreme fast,
Mm-hmm.
and it was called the Master Cleanse or the Lemon Detox Diet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you what, that actually was, for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
it was the best thing I ever did
Mm-hmm.
for my health.
Mm-hmm.
It basically facilitated a reboot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I did my research. It was something I did have reservations with.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know if I would be able to do it because it involved eating of no solids whatsoever.
Right.
And basically the only calories you get is from maple syrup
Mm-hmm.
or molasses.
Mm-hmm.
The rest is basically, lemon juice,
Mm-hmm.
water,
Mm-hmm.
and cayenne pepper.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a bit concerned myself, but I thought, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And if I'm feeling that it's detrimental, then I'll stop.
Yeah.
Now, it got to the 11th day.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I stopped
Mm-hmm.
was because I was losing 1 kilo a day. But I felt amazing. I felt like, oh my God, I had clarity like I never had before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost like you are literally looking like through a more vibrant lens.
Mm-hmm.
My focus, my concentration was on point,
Mm-hmm.
where it wasn't before. I was constantly brain fogged
Yeah.
and fatigued,
Mm-hmm.
and my memory was shot
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just through all the crap I was in, which I
Yeah.
didn't, like I said, I knew I would have known that foods were unhealthy. Obviously, if I'm picking up a potato cake, like I know it's not going to make me feel good, but until you actually start doing the research into exactly what the result is, like, even chemically, what it does. Like, how many people like actually know like what processed sugar does to the brain and to the body, and how it's more addictive than cocaine. I've never had cocaine, so I wouldn't know whether that's true, but it's what I read, you know. But what I'm saying is that, like, it wasn't until I actually did the research after feeling so horrible for so many years
Right.
that actually spurred me on
Yeah.
to want to do something about it. It's like, you know, I'm 25. I'm not meant to be feeling this way. This is
Yeah.
not normal.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, the interesting thing is that they say when you do this kind of diet, this lemon detox diet, you know, you should take it easy. It should be more of a time of sort of rest, and you don't do anything kind of too, you know, vigorous and whatnot.
Totally.
I had so much energy, and I was actually doing a bit of weight training at the time. And before I started the diet, I was happy with my shape. You know, I had some muscle definition, I was toned. And that's why in the end I did want to stop, because I was getting quite thin. I was losing the weight. But in terms of how I felt in mind, in consciousness, I would have kept it going if I could. I mean, a lot of people adopt this kind of diet to try and actually beat cancers and other degenerative diseases. Like, it's considered sort of like an extreme thing. And so this thing, I'm only going to speak from my own experience that it was positive. Okay. I don't know whether it would be the same for other people. I can only testify with what it did to me. And what it facilitated was a reboot even of my palate. And where I wasn't even partial to liking vegetables.
Right.
Most of them I didn't like. I actually started appreciating the taste of so. And I tell you what, the way it really was like reformatting a corrupt file.
Right.
But yeah, it just goes to show though how the foods we eat affect our mind. If we're so conditioned to eating certain foods that make us feel low vibration, so to speak, then that's what's normal to you. Like that's your baseline.
Right.
And to me, feeling like crap was my baseline.
Yeah.
Until I started the transformation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I did that all those years ago. Didn't do it again. It served its purpose. And so from that point, yeah, it was, I'm no health nut, I'm no health freak, but
I just want to caution people because not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
And nor is it healthy for everyone to do that. And there's also a certain point where it may not be beneficial anymore. You know, so you were feeling great at the 11th day, but maybe if you kept going at the 35th day, you would be so depleted that,
Yeah, I
the
don't know.
effects could be the opposite